morning and welcome to our daily devotional from Pilgrim Congregational Church. I'm Patrick Horn. Very glad to have you with us on this Thursday morning, March the 27th, 2025, as we continue our look at Luke chapter 15 and the story of the prodigal son. And this morning I want us to take a couple of minutes to reflect on the perspective of the father that is given here. And I think part of what must be appreciated about the prodigal son story is its comparison to the first story, two stories or parables that Jesus told in this setting. The first being the parable of the lost sheep, and then the parable of the lost coin. And there is in those two parables a kind of acknowledgement that losses occur at different levels in our lives. That is, some losses are worse than others. Some losses we can think about how to recover from, and even though it hurts and it's painful at the time, we have a pretty good idea in our heads what a solution is going to look like, and so we move forward with the solution and we start addressing the loss. And I think these two first parables reflect that kind of loss. That is, that it's painful and it's very exciting to find something that you've lost, but also that that these are things that you might be able to recover from. The third parable, I think, is intended to be a loss from which we can't imagine what recovery might look like. It feels too painful at the time, too sorrowful for the father. And let's read a couple of the verses to reflect on this for a moment. So in verses 11 and 12, 11, 12, and 13, then Jesus said, there was a man who had two sons. The younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the share of the property that will belong to me. So he divided his property between them. A few days later, the younger son gathered all he had and traveled to a distant country, and there he squandered his property in dissolute living. And then a little later, when the son is coming back, we see in verse 20 that the son set off and went to his father. And then verse 20 says, but while he was still far off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. And I think we can see here especially the difference between a lost sheep and a lost coin. That is, in this context, particularly of the coin, we would not say that we had compassion for the coin. And I think there is supposed to be a contrast here with the kind of loss that is irreplaceable, as it were, that cannot be fixed, and that we maybe don't know how we're going to fix it. And so there's another message here, I think, which has to do with God's love for us that extends even beyond those things that we are able to understand and fix. That a love for us that it participates in sorrow with us, and in doing so lifts us up and makes our burden light. That is, this is how we are supposed to go on, I think, is that we go on because Christ shares with us the burden of our losses. Let's close with this word of prayer from W.E. Orchard. Eternal Father, most real when most invisible, most near when we think far away, most clearly conceived when we acknowledge thee to be incomprehensible. Speak to us not only from the past, but from the living present, not only from the awful silences, but in every tumultuous thought, not only from the clouds that veil thy heavenly throne, but from thine image graven on the heart of each person. While our thoughts of thee grow wider, may we remember how vaster still thou art, and may we seek to grow more sensible of thy presence and to reflect thee more purely in our lives. Help us, O King of ages, in these changing times and these troubled days. Lose not care of us when we lose sight of thee. Still hold us fast when faith is feeble and knowledge is confused. If our thoughts of thee should grow doubtful and thine image within be dimmed, may we unconsciously fulfill thy will. Help us to remember that it is not to him that thinketh, but to him that doeth, that thy will is known. Help us to believe that thou abidest beyond all change and art always better than our highest hopes, greater than our noblest thoughts. Amen. Thank you for joining me this morning from Pilgrim Congregational Church. I'm Patrick Horn, and I hope that you have a very good day. Goodbye.